A shocking question about Jungkook's secret marriage throws Taehyung into chaos on live TV. His answer unravels a web of hidden truths and betrayal. Is it true that Jungkook is secretly married and you were the best man? The words dropped like a thunderclap, slicing through the sterile quiet of the press room. Cameras whirred and clicked, reporters leaned forward as if yanked by an invisible force. Taehyung's smile froze, eyes narrowing just slightly, barely perceptible to the untrained eye, but to anyone who knew him, it was a crack in the mask. The air turned thick. Seoul's late summer heat had nothing on the pressure now boiling beneath the surface. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he looked past the lights, past the flashing cameras, to a point only he could see. His jaw tensed. There was a flicker of memory, of guilt, of fury, no one could tell. Then without warning he laughed. A dry, humorless laugh that scraped the room raw. "Is that what they're saying now?" he said, his voice smooth but threaded with something sharp underneath. That Jungkook got married behind everyone's back, and that I, of all people, stood beside him. His tone danced between amusement and menace. The reporter, a younger man with ambitious eyes and a tremor in his hand, didn't back down. "We have sources," he said, pulling out a folder that looked far too thin to carry the weight of a secret like this. Taehyung's gaze snapped to the folder like a whip. He stood slowly, calmly, as if every movement was a calculated act of war. "You don't know what you're asking," he said, stepping forward. "You don't know who you're playing with." The room stirred like a forest before a storm. Behind him, Big Hit's PR team exchanged frantic glances. Someone mouthed, "Cut the feed," but it was too late. The live stream was rolling. Millions were watching. Millions were hearing the tremor in Taehyung's voice. Millions were seeing the truth trying to claw its way out of his composed facade. He inhaled sharply, eyes flicking upward as if chasing down a memory he'd locked away. Jungkook. His brother, his anchor, his greatest secret. 6 months ago. A rain-soaked rooftop, screaming wind, Jungkook's eyes rimmed red, a ring clenched tight in his fist. "She's pregnant, T, I don't care what the label says." Taehyung had tried to reason with him, tried to pull him back from the edge of something irreversible. But Jungkook had always been wildfire wrapped in silk, beautiful, untouchable, and impossible to contain. And now that wildfire had ignited again. "Enough," Taehyung said, voice lower, colder. He was no longer performing. "You want the truth, here it is." The room held its breath. "I wasn't the best man," he said, pausing just long enough to crack open the tension. "I was the witness." Gasps, flashes, someone dropped their phone. He didn't tell anyone because he couldn't, not even the members, not even his own parents. He wanted to protect her because if this industry knew what he did, they would destroy her, and you'd help them. He stepped back from the podium. The silence was deafening. The reporter, visibly shaken, tried to recover. Who is she? But Taehyung's expression shifted, softened, almost mournful. "You've already said too much." The feed cut abruptly. But it was done. The world now knew Jungkook was married. Taehyung had witnessed it. And someone was out there, someone they had all tried to keep hidden, whose life was now in danger. Inside the black van that whisked him away moments later, Taehyung sat in silence, pulling off his mic with trembling hands. His phone buzzed endlessly. Headlines, mentions, chaos. But he didn't look. He stared at his own reflection in the window, haunted by the image of Jungkook's face the last time he saw him. "Don't tell anyone, Taehyung, no matter what, if they find out about her." He hadn't finished the sentence. But Taehyung had always known how it would end. Rain pelted the black-tinted windows of the van as it weaved through Seoul's midnight streets. Inside, Taehyung sat frozen, eyes locked on the pulsing blue screen of his phone. Messages poured in, group chats exploding, management panicking, reporters digging in with vulture-like precision. But he didn't move. The last thing he read before going completely still was a name. A single name. Yeon Seo-jin. It wasn't supposed to be public, not ever. The woman Jungkook had married in secret, the woman no one knew existed. And now, because of one reckless question, one truth spoken too loudly, her name was out. Floating, bleeding, targeted. A call came through. Taehyung hesitated, then answered. You just painted a target on her back, hissed the voice on the other end. It was Namjoon, calm usually but now shaking with rage. Are you insane? They were going to find out anyway, Taehyung muttered, voice thick with something between guilt and resolve. No, T, you didn't give them an inch, you gave them her entire life. Her name is trending. Her photo is spreading. Someone hacked Jungkook's iCloud. There's a goddamn ultrasound picture going viral right now. Silence. Then softly like glass cracking. She was 6 months pregnant. Taehyung swallowed hard, his hands trembled on the phone. Where Jungkook? He asked, barely breathing. Namjoon paused, gone, disappeared right after the news broke. He's not answering anyone. The silence stretched until it hurt. Then another voice pierced the line, deep, ragged. Tae. It was Yoongi. We just got a message. The hairs on Taehyung's neck stood. What kind of message? Yoongi didn't answer right away. In the background someone cursed, papers rustled, a window slammed shut. Finally, he said. From an anonymous email, no subject, no body, just one attachment. Taehyung waited. It's a photo. A pause, a breath. Of Seojin. He felt his chest cave in. Yoongi continued, slower now. She's tied to a chair, blindfolded. There's a newspaper next to her with today's date and a message written on the wall behind her. What does it say? Taehyung asked, throat raw. Yoongi's voice was low, dangerous. If she dies, it's on you. Taehyung slammed his fist into the van wall, startling the driver. Blood trickled from his knuckles, but he didn't feel it. He had just painted a bullseye on a woman who had once looked him in the eye and said, promise me, no matter what happens, protect him, even if you have to lie to him to do it. And he had broken that promise in front of millions. Get me to the studio, now, Taehyung barked. But sir, we're supposed to. I said now. The van veered off course, headed downtown. The big hit building was chaos. Security was doubled. Reporters swarmed the gates. Screens showed news anchors frothing at the mouth over BTS' biggest betrayal. Staff members darted around with phones glued to their ears, trying to control a narrative that was already out of their hands. Taehyung walked in, soaked, bloody-knuckled and silent. Everyone froze. Yoongi was waiting inside, holding a printed photo. He handed it over without a word. Taehyung stared at it. Seojin's head hung low, her arms were bound. The word traitor was painted in red behind her like something out of a horror movie. Her face was pale, but he could still see the tiny crescent birthmark under her left ear. The one Jungkook used to kiss like it was a secret only he knew. What do they want? Taehyung whispered. Yoongi sighed. They haven't said, but if this is who we think it is. Taehyung looked up. The same people who threatened Jungkook a year ago, Yoongi confirmed. The ones who tried to blackmail him when he left the apartment that night with Seojin. Taehyung's world tilted. Jungkook had never said who they were, just that he had to protect her, that he'd rather vanish than put her at risk. And now she was the bait. Suddenly the studio door slammed open. And Jungkook walked in. Soaked to the bone, face shadowed, eyes bloodshot. He didn't speak as he walked straight up to Taehyung and punched him across the jaw. The room went dead silent. Taehyung staggered back, jaw aching, heart breaking. You were the one person I trusted, Jungkook hissed, voice shaking. The only person, and you gave them her name. I didn't mean to. But you did, Jungkook snapped. You always do what you think is right, you never ask. His hands clenched into fists again, but he didn't swing this time. He just stood there, breathing like a man who had just clawed his way out of a grave. She's out there because of you, and if anything happens to her, Taehyung. His voice cracked. If anything happens to her, don't come to the funeral. Taehyung looked down. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Yoongi stepped between them. Enough, we don't have time for this. Namjoon came in next, carrying files, laptop open with surveillance maps. We've got one lead, he said. A private security cam caught a van matching the make and model spotted near Seojin's last location. We're tracking it now. Jungkook didn't even blink. I'm going after hers. Jungkook and Namjoon started. Alone, he said, voice stone cold. Taehyung stepped forward, bruised and desperate. Let me help. Jungkook stared at him like he didn't recognize him. You've done enough. He turned and walked out. Taehyung stood there drowning in silence, clutching the photo of the woman he swore to protect. And failed. Outside, the storm raged louder. The warehouse reeked of gasoline and mildew. Somewhere in the darkness, a pipe dripped water in slow, maddening intervals. The sound echoed like a countdown, the kind that told you time was running out but didn't say how much you had left. Seojin stirred. Her wrists were raw from the ropes, her lips were chapped, her blindfold stank of sweat and duct tape. She could barely move, but she wasn't afraid. She was furious. "Do you think he's coming for you?" a voice snarled. Male, early 30s, Seoul dialect, but the edges were rough, hired muscle, probably not even the brains behind this, just the hand. "Do you really think he's stupid enough to walk into this trap?" She didn't answer, she had stopped answering hours ago. Pain didn't scare her, it was the not knowing, the idea that Jungkook might come anyway, that he might trade himself for her. She couldn't let that happen, not again. "Your silence won't protect you," the man continued. "You should have stayed a secret, but no, the pretty little ghost had to come back to haunt the golden boy." She clenched her jaw. If she ever got out of this, she'd burn every last one of them. Meanwhile, across Seoul, Taehyung sat in the backseat of Yoongi's car, a towel pressed against the corner of his split lip. The silence between them was stiff, charged. "You shouldn't have said anything," Yoongi finally muttered, eyes on the road. Taehyung didn't respond. "You should have denied it, laughed it off. You know how this works, T, you've known since we were kids." "She's not a tabloid headline," Taehyung said sharply. "She's a person, she's carrying his child." Yoongi's fingers gripped the steering wheel tighter. "You think I don't know that? Then why are we all pretending like she doesn't exist?" "Because the moment the world knows she does, they'll devour her, and now they are." Taehyung slammed his fist on the dashboard. "Then let's stop pretending, let's fight." Yoongi turned sharply, eyes cold. "Fight who? The media, the company, the fans? Half of them are already screaming betrayal. You want war, T, we're in it, and you lit the first match." The car went silent again. Then Yoongi's phone buzzed. He glanced down, his expression changed instantly. "It's from Jin." Taehyung leaned in. He tracked the van's plates to an old warehouse on the edge of Incheon, abandoned, off-grid, no security cams except for traffic. "We need to go," Taehyung said, already reaching for the door. But Yoongi grabbed his arm. "You're not going." "What?" "You're compromised," he said. "If they see you, it'll only escalate. I'm the one who put her in danger. That's exactly why you can't be there." They locked eyes. Taehyung's chest heaved, his fists curled. Yoongi's phone buzzed again, another message, a video file this time. He played it. Seojin appeared on screen, blood on her lip, blindfold off now but eyes swollen. A man held her by the hair, forcing her to look at the camera. "If Jeon Jungkook or Kim Taehyung comes within 1 mile of this place, she dies," the man growled. "You want to be heroes, try us." The screen cut to black. Yoongi stared at it for a long moment. Then quietly, "They know your name too." Taehyung turned away, swallowing the bile in his throat. Somewhere else in the city, Jungkook sat in a hotel room bathed in dim yellow light. The lamp on the nightstand flickered. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, gunmetal gray duffel bag next to him. Inside it, burner phones, foreign cash, and an envelope with a forged passport. But he wasn't running. Not this time. His phone buzzed, a contact labeled simply HIM. "One chance, alone, no tricks, you come to her or she dies." Attached a map pin, coordinates just outside Incheon. Jungkook closed his eyes, images flashed. The first time he met Seojin, when she spilled iced coffee on him at a charity shoot and didn't recognize who he was. The first time she cried in his arms. The night she told him she was pregnant. The morning he married her in a borrowed suit, with only Taehyung watching. He opened his eyes again, steeled. He called one person. "Namjoon. Jungkook, where are you? We can track the. I need you to do something for me." "What?" "If I don't come back, make sure she's safe." There was silence on the line. Then Namjoon said softly, "What are you planning?" "I'm going alone." "You're walking into a kill box." "I don't care." "You should, we can work this another way." "There is no other way." "Don't be a martyr," Namjoon snapped. you think this is about love. Jungkook's voice was deadly calm. No, this is about her, about the life we created, about not letting her pay the price for loving me. He hung up, pulled the hoodie over his head, picked up the duffel, and disappeared into the storm. Back at the warehouse, Seojin was fading in and out. But she heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Then a voice sharp and smug. Well, well, the golden boy kept his promise. Her eyes snapped open. The man from the video stood at the door, holding Jungkook's phone. He's on his way. He crouched beside her. You must be something special, huh? He whispered, brushing hair from her face. To make an idol throw away his career, his safety, everything for a girl like you. Seojin stared at him, voice hoarse. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. He stood and turned to the others in the room, 3 men all armed. Get ready, he ordered, we end this tonight. Outside, lightning cracked across the sky. And somewhere down the road, Jungkook was coming, with a fury no one could stop. Rain hammered the windshield like bullets as Jungkook's black motorcycle sliced through the highway toward Incheon. The engine roared beneath him, but his mind was louder, screaming, spinning, replaying every moment leading to this hell. He saw Seojin's face behind his eyelids, not the bloodied, bruised one from the video, but the one from the day they married, barefoot, trembling, laughing. The courthouse was cold. The judge was impatient, but none of that mattered. It was the only place in the world that felt like home. He clenched the handlebars tighter, faster now. Headlights cut through the storm, his hoodie was soaked, his gloves slippery from rain and sweat, but he didn't slow down. She was alive. And she was waiting. Inside the warehouse, Seojin's hands had long since gone numb. Her breathing was shallow, blood dried against her temple, but her mind stayed sharp, counting steps, cataloging voices, listening for anything that would give her an edge. The man in charge, Taehyung, had once called him Black Fox. A ghost who sold information to the highest bidder stood across from her now, packing. You know, he said casually, pulling off his gloves and tossing them aside, I never understood what he saw in you. Pretty enough, I guess, but stupid. So stupid. Seojin didn't flinch. Men like him don't stay with women like you, not unless they're hiding something or trying to prove something. Is that what this is? She rasped. You jealous? He paused, then walked to her slowly. I want to hurt him, he said plainly, but I want to hurt you more. She spit blood at his feet. He grabbed her chin hard, forcing her to look at him. That mouth of yours is going to cost you. Suddenly a phone rang. Everyone froze. It wasn't his phone. It was hers. The one they hadn't found, buried in the lining of her coat. Black Fox snatched it out, screen glowing. Unknown caller. He answered without a word. And froze. Because the voice that spoke on the other end wasn't afraid. It was calm, cold, controlled. Put her on, Jungkook said. You're brave, I'll give you that, Black Fox sneered, switching the call to speaker. But I thought we agreed no phones. I'm not calling to negotiate, Jungkook said. I'm calling to let you know I'm already here. The color drained from the man's face. At that exact moment, the lights in the warehouse flickered. Then went dark. Total blackout. What the hell's? Generators gone. Check the perimeter. Shouting erupted, footsteps scrambled, guns cocked. Seojin's breath caught in her throat. Black Fox raised his gun, scanning the shadows, barking orders. And then bang. A shot rang out. One of the guards dropped, screaming, clutching his leg. Where is he? Panic spread like wildfire. Another guard disappeared into the dark, dragged backward by something unseen. A third began firing wildly, bullets ricocheting off the walls. Then Jungkook stepped into the center of the room slowly, like a ghost emerging from smoke, drenched, face half shadowed under his hood, gun in one hand, blade in the other. He looked inhuman. Black Fox pointed his weapon. You're not going to make it out of here alive. Jungkook didn't blink. I didn't come here to leave. Then you're a damn fool. No, Jungkook said, stepping closer, I'm a husband. With a flick of his wrist, he threw the knife straight into the shoulder of the nearest thug. Chaos exploded. Shots flew, Jungkook ducked, rolled, fired back. Every move was lethal, surgical, trained. This wasn't the idol who danced under stage lights, this was something else, something forged in desperation. He reached Seo-jin in seconds, cutting the ropes from her wrists with one quick motion. "Can you walk?" She nodded even as tears welled in her eyes. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said, voice breaking just enough. "You're my home." But Black Fox wasn't done. He grabbed Seo-jin from behind, pulling her against him, gun to her temple. "Drop it, Jungkook, now." Jungkook's gun hit the floor without hesitation. "Kick it away." He did. Black Fox sneered, "You think love makes you strong, but it makes you stupid." Jungkook raised his hands, stepping closer. "You're right." "What?" "You're right," Jungkook repeated softly. "Love makes you blind, it makes you reckless." And then with eyes like burning coals. "But not weak." In one impossibly swift move, Jungkook dove forward, knocking the gun upward just as it fired. The shot went wide. Seo-jin dropped to the floor as Jungkook tackled the man to the ground. They fought brutal, raw, no finesse. Jungkook took a punch to the ribs, blood poured from a cut above his eye, but he didn't stop. He didn't falter. He beat Black Fox into the concrete until the man stopped moving. Until everything went still. The only sound left was rain. Jungkook stood over the man, chest heaving, then turned to Seo-jin, crouching beside her. "I've got you," he whispered. She touched his face, trembling. "You're bleeding." "So are you." He laughed, broken and tired. Sirens wailed in the distance. Taehyung arrived seconds later, breathless, soaked, eyes scanning the wreckage. He saw them, Jungkook and Seo-jin, crumpled together on the floor. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Jungkook looked up at him. "You told the truth." Taehyung nodded, silent. Jungkook stood, helping Seo-jin up. And walked past him. No words. Just a look, 1,000 emotions compressed into one glance. Forgiveness, grief, gratitude, fury. All of it. Taehyung watched them go, heart pounding. And behind him, the warehouse finally went quiet. Jungkook sat in the hospital hallway, head bowed, blood still crusted in the corner of his eye, his hands trembling in the sterile light. Seo-jin was in surgery. They said she'd lost too much blood, internal bleeding, concussion, bruised ribs. Her voice echoed in his head, soft, breaking. "You came." And now she was behind cold metal doors with strangers, and all he could do was wait. The fluorescent light above flickered. His hoodie was soaked through, his knuckles bruised and raw, his chest aching with every breath. The adrenaline was gone now, and in its place sat the weight, the unbearable, suffocating weight of consequence. Taehyung stood a few feet away, leaning against the wall, his arms crossed tight over his chest. He hadn't spoken since they got to the hospital. He hadn't even sat down. Jungkook finally broke the silence. "You shouldn't have followed me." Taehyung didn't look at him. "I didn't, I followed her." Jungkook let out a short, humorless laugh. "You always knew how to make things sound noble." "She almost died." "I know," Jungkook snapped. They stared at each other now. The hallway hummed with silence again. A nurse passed, glanced at them, kept walking. "She begged me not to tell anyone," Jungkook said quietly. "Not the company, not the members, not even her family. She thought if they knew about us they'd use her, like a bargaining chip." "She wasn't wrong." "No," Jungkook agreed, "but you were supposed to protect her too." Taehyung's jaw tightened. "You think I wanted any of this? You think I wanted her name out there? I was trying to shut it down." "Then why the hell did you answer the question like that?" "Because I was tired of lying." "Tired of lying?" Jungkook stepped forward now, voice rising. "We all lie, every damn day, for the fans, for the image, for survival, and now because you were tired she's—" He couldn't say it. He couldn't finish the sentence. He just turned, walked away, palms pressing into his eyes like he could squeeze the images out. Taehyung didn't chase him. He just stood there, arms limp now, watching his brother in everything but blood fall apart. Another figure entered the hallway. Namjoon, still in a suit, tie loosened, face drawn tight with fury. "We need to talk," he said to both of them, voice low and cold. "Now." Neither answered, but neither walked away. Namjoon glanced around, then motioned them toward an empty consultation room. They followed like ghosts. The door shut. "You two," he said, voice like a blade, "just lit the biggest fire this industry has seen since trainee scandals and drug rumors. Jungkook, you nearly killed someone on camera. Taehyung, your press conference has triggered over 100 articles in less than 24 hours. Fans are split. Army is in meltdown. There are hashtags trending in 3 countries calling you traitors. Some of them are even doxing Seojin's family. She didn't ask for this, Taehyung said. No, Namjoon agreed, but you gave her to them, both of you. Jungkook's fists clenched. So what do we do now? Apologize, tell the world it was all fake, deny her like everyone else? Namjoon stared at him, then quietly, do you love her? The question hung in the air like smoke. Jungkook didn't flinch. With everything I have. Namjoon turned to Taehyung, and you? Taehyung blinked. What? Do you love her? Silence. Jungkook turned slowly, eyes narrowing. What the hell are you talking about? But Namjoon didn't look away from Taehyung. Taehyung's breath hitched ever so slightly. I loved her, he said finally, voice so quiet it was nearly a confession. Jungkook's face went still. Before you ever met her, Taehyung continued. Before she was yours, I loved her when she was just a name in my phone, when she was someone I wrote lyrics about and never had the courage to show. Why didn't you tell me? Because I saw the way she looked at you. Jungkook's jaw clenched, and you just stood there. I didn't want to ruin what we had, Taehyung said, eyes burning now. Not the group, not us, so I swallowed it. I watched you fall in love with her and I let it happen. I kept my distance. But the night you married her, when you asked me to be the witness, something inside me broke. You should have told me. And what would I have said? Taehyung snapped. That the girl you loved was supposed to be mine first, that I saw her before you did, that I kept every photo she ever sent me like a damn fool and still look at them like they're relics. Jungkook turned away. The room cracked with silence. Namjoon rubbed his temples. We don't have time for this. I don't care, Jungkook said. Let the company burn, let the fans turn on us, I won't leave her, and I sure as hell won't apologize for loving her. And if she dies, Namjoon asked, voice suddenly sharp, what then? Jungkook looked at him, broken and unblinking. Then I'll burn every part of this industry that let it happen. Taehyung stared at the floor. The door opened a crack, a nurse peeked in. She's stable, she said softly, she's asking for Jungkook. He was gone before she finished the sentence. Back in the ICU, Seojin lay pale and trembling under 2 white sheets. Tubes ran into her arms, monitors beeped rhythmically, her eyes fluttered open as Jungkook entered. He knelt beside her bed, took her hand gently, kissed her palm. I'm here. Her voice was barely a whisper. I thought I was dreaming. You're not. I thought you'd let me go. I never will, he said, voice cracking. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I'm the one who should be sorry, Jungkook said. I should have protected you better. She looked at him, eyes full of pain and fire. Promise me, she said, if something happens to me, don't let them touch our baby. He buried his face in her hand. I promise. Outside the room, Taehyung watched through the glass. He didn't go in. He turned away instead, dragging his guilt like an anchor. And behind him, a text appeared on an encrypted phone from an unknown sender. You think this is over? Attached was a photo of Seojin, still in the warehouse. The one in the hospital was someone else. The real nightmare hadn't even begun. Taehyung's footsteps echoed down the empty corridor, but his heart pounded louder than any sound in the building. The message burned in his hand, his phone screen still lit, showing Seojin's bruised face, but it wasn't from the hospital bed. It was from that goddamn warehouse. He burst through the consultation room door without knocking, startling Namjoon, who was deep in a call with the agency's crisis team. Cut the line, Taehyung said, breathless. Namjoon blinked. What? Namjoon, end the call. Namjoon swore under his breath and ended the video meeting. What happened? Taehyung tossed the phone across the table. That's what happened. Namjoon picked it up, eyes narrowing as he tapped on the photo. The timestamp was unmistakable, the metadata was intact, it had been taken 20 minutes ago. Namjoon looked up, voice suddenly cold. Are you absolutely sure? She's still in that warehouse, Taehyung cut in. The girl in the hospital, it's not Seojin. Back in the ICU, Jungkook sat beside the woman in the bed, gently stroking her fingers. She was drifting in and out of consciousness, her voice weak, slurred. nurses came and went, checking monitors, adjusting tubes, but something wasn't right. She kept calling him baby. Seojin never called him that. He leaned in close. What's your name? She blinked slowly. What? Say your name, please. A pause. Then Seojin. It was the way she said it, flat, robotic, wrong. Jungkook's stomach turned. A cold sweat broke out along the back of his neck. I need a doctor, he said, standing suddenly. Now. Namjoon and Taehyung stormed into the hallway just as Jungkook came out of the room. She's not her, he said hoarsely, eyes wild. She's not Seojin. We know, Taehyung said, voice strained. We got a message she's still at the warehouse. Jungkook's fists clenched. Then who the hell is that in the bed? Namjoon pulled him aside. A decoy, planted. They must have switched her during the chaos, which means someone inside the emergency response team was involved. They planned this, Taehyung muttered. All of it, even the rescue. Where's the girl now? Jungkook asked. She passed out again, probably drugged. Jungkook turned on his heel. We're going back to that warehouse. It's a trap, Namjoon warned. I don't care. Namjoon stepped into his path. You go now, they'll expect it, they'll be watching for you. If you die, they win. And if I do nothing, she dies anyway. Then let me go, Taehyung said suddenly. Both men turned to him. You, Jungkook said flatly. You're not the only one who wants her back, Taehyung said, eyes dark. Let me do this, let me fix something. You can't think clearly right now, but I can. Jungkook stared at him for a long time, his jaw flexed, his eyes burned. Then he looked away. Fine. Namjoon gave Taehyung a sharp look. You go in quiet, no calls, no backup if anything feels off. I pull out, Taehyung finished. Namjoon handed him a burner phone. Use this, we'll monitor from HQ. Taehyung nodded, then he looked at Jungkook. Do you trust me? Jungkook didn't answer immediately, then low and heavy. I don't know if I do anymore, but I hope she still does. The warehouse hadn't changed. Still reeking of rust and oil, still poolsing with something rotten in the air. Taehyung moved like a shadow through the back entrance, eyes scanning, ears tuned. He had no weapons, just a flashlight, a phone, and every ounce of instinct he'd ever honed. He followed the dripping sounds, the slight moan, the soft shuffle. And then he saw her. Seojin. The real Seojin. Tied tighter this time, gagged, hair matted with blood, but her eyes lit up the second she saw him. T, she whispered as he tore the gag off. T, they said they'd come back, they said they'd. We're getting out, he said, cutting the ropes, now. But before he could lift her, the door slammed shut. And the lights came on. Bright, blinding, clinical. Taehyung froze. Across the room, the same man from before, Black Fox or whoever he really was, stood with two others, guns drawn, smirking. You just couldn't help yourself, could you? He said. Taehyung stood slowly, putting himself between them and Seojin. Let her go. Oh, I intend to, after you deliver a message for me. What message? That love doesn't save anyone. He pulled a phone from his pocket, pressed record. You're going to watch her die, he said, and then you're going to tell your precious Jungkook that he did this, that his choices led her here. No, Taehyung growled, no more games. You want revenge, take it out on me. The man tilted his head. Why would I waste the chance to destroy both of you? Then he aimed the gun directly at Seojin. Taehyung stepped forward without hesitation. I swear to God, he said, voice trembling with rage, if you touch her, I will put your body in the Han River and make sure no one ever finds it. You think you're scary? No, Taehyung said, but I'm desperate, and you should be terrified of what desperate people do. A pause. Then unexpectedly the man smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Behind him, the second man raised a tranquilizer gun and fired. It hit Taehyung in the neck. He staggered. Fell. Darkness swallowed him whole. And as he hit the ground, the last thing he heard was Seojin screaming his name, raw and helpless, while the camera kept rolling. Back in Seoul, the video hit Namjoon's phone 30 seconds later. It showed Taehyung unconscious. And a voice whispering, You've got 24 hours or we send pieces. Jungkook watched it in silence. Then said only one word. War. Rain slicked the pavement outside the hidden operations room that Namjoon had hastily assembled in the basement of an abandoned studio building in Mapogu. The windows were blacked out. The room reeked of damp wood, old wires, and adrenaline. The air was electric with dread. Jungkook stood at the center of the room, surrounded by maps, burner phones, encrypted laptops, a whiteboard filled with locations, names, and timestamps. His jaw was clenched tight, a muscle twitching along his temple. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His eyes were bloodshot, but they burned with clarity. "They sent the video at 2:37 a.m., Namjoon said, clicking through the security feeds on one of the monitors. "They wanted us to see him unconscious, wanted to prove they still had control." "They sedated him," Jungkook said, his voice low and ragged. "Not shot, that means they still need him alive for leverage, they're not finished." "Not yet," Yoongi said, stepping in from the hallway with a USB drive in hand. "But they will be, soon." Jungkook turned to him. "What's that?" "The original security cam footage from the hospital, the decoy girl. She wasn't just a random actress. She was planted by someone inside." "Inside where?" "Inside our agency." Jungkook's fists clenched. "Name." Yoongi looked at Namjoon, then back at Jungkook. "Park Seon-woo, he's head of digital surveillance at HYBE. No one ever questioned him because he's not the type you suspect. He's been rerouting our calls, intercepting emails, filtering what the press receives." "How long has he been doing this?" "Long enough to know about Seojin before even you told me," Namjoon said. Jungkook stared at the wall in front of him, at the photo of Seojin tied to the chair and Taehyung crumpled beside her like a broken marionette. "They want me to come alone," he murmured. "You're not going alone," Yoongi snapped. "They said if I bring anyone else, they'll kill her." Namjoon stepped in. "They'll kill her either way, that's how this ends if you play it straight. They want chaos, they want blood, they want you to self-destruct on camera." "I'm not walking into another trap," Jungkook said. "This time I burn the trap." Somewhere far from Seoul, Taehyung blinked awake in a fog of pain and static. His head throbbed. His arms were bound behind his back. A metal chair groaned beneath him every time he moved. A single bulb swung above, casting dizzying shadows. Seojin was in the corner, huddled on the floor, her eyes locked on his with feral desperation. "T," she whispered, crawling toward him. "Seojin," he said, trying to move. "Are you okay?" She shook her head, but it wasn't about her. "They're planning something. They keep talking about a broadcast." "A broadcast?" "They have cameras, mics, they're going to live stream it." Taehyung's stomach twisted. Live stream her death. Broadcast their humiliation, their failure, their obliteration. A door opened. Black Fox strolled in, clapping slowly. "Well, look who's awake," he said, grinning. "Didn't think you'd come for her, Taehyung, thought you might let him take all the risk." "Let her go," Taehyung growled. Now, that's not how this works." He crouched beside Seojin, brushing hair from her face like a snake coiling around its prey. "We have a very special show planned tonight, one night only, and you, my friend, are going to be the centerpiece." "Why?" Taehyung asked. "Why go through all of this? What do you even want?" Black Fox leaned close. "To end the myths." Taehyung blinked. "What myth?" "The myth of perfection, the fantasy, the lie you and your brothers have sold the world. You preach sincerity and love and loyalty, but you all hide behind your smiles while people like me are left in the dirt." He stood. "The world worships you, they bleed for you, and tonight, they'll watch you bleed for them." "You're insane." "I'm enlightened." Back in Seoul, Jungkook geared up. Black tactical gear, steel-toe boots, a headset linked to Yoongi and Namjoon, who would be directing the off-site infiltration. A camera crew had been hired in secret, not to film for entertainment, but evidence, because this time they weren't just fighting for love. They were fighting to expose everything. The corruption, the surveillance, the obsession, the industry's silence. Jungkook strapped on a hidden mic. Yoongi handed him a small vial. "Poison," he joked. "Adrenaline shot," Yoongi said, "just in case they try to drug you." Jungkook stared at it. "If I have to use this, it's already too late." Namjoon came forward, holding a tablet. "We've intercepted their IP address. They'll go live from a private server in Busan, an underground facility beneath an old factory, remote, no security, no backup, all cameras, no escape." Perfect, Jungkook muttered, just how I like it. Namjoon grabbed his arm before he turned. Listen to me, he said, his voice tight. If you can't get her out safely, don't. I am getting her out. And if they try to kill you, then they'll have to kill me trying. Hours later, inside the underground compound, the clock ticked to midnight. The cameras were set. The livestream page was ready. Thousands of people had been invited secretly, dark web forums, obscure servers, underground chat groups, the most toxic corners of fandom that no one wanted to admit existed. The title of the stream: The Fall of an Idol. Jungkook stepped into the chamber, alone, unarmed, hands raised. Black Fox smiled from behind the control panel. You actually came. I said I would. Where's your little gang, your genius leader, your silent sniper? They're not coming. Good, Black Fox said, then watch. He pressed a button. A wall slid open. Taehyung, bloody, barely conscious, was shoved to his knees beside Seojin, who looked barely alive herself. Let them go. You know that's not happening. Jungkook took a step forward. Don't, Black Fox warned, you move another inch and I kill her. Jungkook's entire body trembled. And then he whispered something. So quiet, even Black Fox didn't hear it the first time. What was that? Jungkook raised his head. I said you're not in control. Black Fox frowned. What the hell are you talking about? Suddenly, every screen in the room flickered. The livestream froze. Then cut to black. Black Fox turned to his tech, furious. What's going on? Yoongi's voice crackled through the loudspeaker. You're not the only one who knows how to hijack a feed. The lights went out. Chaos. Jungkook moved. Fast. He reached Taehyung first, cutting his ropes, then pulled Seojin into his arms. Are you with me? He asked her. Always, she said. Gunfire erupted, screams echoed, flashbangs exploded in the hallway. Namjoon's voice came through the earpiece. You've got a 5-minute window, extraction on the north side. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He ran with Seojin in his arms, Taehyung at his side, the fire behind them growing louder. This wasn't just rescue. This was war. And it had only just begun. The extraction van sped through the night, tires slicing over wet asphalt as the city lights of Busan blurred into a neon smear behind them. Inside, everything was chaos, controlled, barely breathing, laced with trauma. Taehyung sat on the floor of the van, head resting against the cold metal, his breath shallow and uneven. Blood dried across his collar. His shirt was torn, eyes half-lidded but conscious. Seojin sat between his legs, her back against his chest, shivering. Jungkook hovered beside them, one hand on her shoulder, the other clenched into a fist against his knee. Neither of them said anything for a long time. The hum of the engine was the only sound. Then Seojin whispered, her voice hoarse and cracking. He said it wasn't over. Jungkook looked down. Who? Black Fox. She shook her head slowly. No, someone else. He kept getting calls from a private line. Every time he looked at his phone, he changed, like he wasn't the one really calling the shots. Namjoon turned from the front passenger seat, phone glowing in his hand. That's consistent with what we found. There's a deeper thread here. The one pulling Fox's strings hasn't made a move yet, but we're close. Taehyung coughed, then winced. How close is close? Yoongi, behind the wheel, didn't take his eyes off the road. Close enough to know whoever they are, they're not new. They've been watching us for years. Define watching, Jungkook said tightly. Not just us, army, fanbase databases, private schedules, unreleased footage, internal HYBE memos. There's an entire archive stored on a private server tied to a shadow branch inside the label. Taehyung laughed bitterly. So this was never about Seojin, she was just the trigger. Namjoon nodded. Exactly, the goal was never to destroy her, it was to unravel you, all of you, your image, your brotherhood, the illusion of perfection. Jungkook looked over at Seojin, who had her arms wrapped tightly around herself. How do we stop it? Yoongi finally answered. By going public, not with a scandal, with the truth, the full truth, what happened to Seojin, what they did to Taehyung, the fact that someone inside the company let this happen. Namjoon added, but we don't release it on our terms, we let it leak. Taehyung shook his head. Are you crazy? If we leak that, we burn everything. Contracts, endorsements, world tour gone. Maybe they should be, Seo-jin said suddenly, voice louder than before, eyes fierce now. I almost died for a lie, for someone else's control over our lives. I won't sit back and pretend I wasn't taken, chained, and nearly murdered just to protect a fantasy that doesn't exist. Everyone went quiet. Jungkook reached for her hand, she squeezed back hard. Namjoon exhaled, then we go dark for now, no press statements, no social media, nothing, just vanish while we prepare the storm. And when it hits, Jungkook said, his voice flat and steady, we make sure it brings the whole building down. 2 nights later, Seoul. A private suite, high above Gangnam, floor-to-ceiling windows. A man in a tailored gray suit scrolled through a tablet, swirling whiskey in his glass. His reflection was sharp, clinical, his smile was razor-thin. He was the real architect, the one no one saw coming. Chairman Lee Do-hyun. Former HYBE board member, resigned 2 years ago, disappeared from the public eye, but behind the scenes he never left. The livestream had failed, the servers had been wiped, but he wasn't worried. Because the virus was already inside. The next phase didn't need blood. It needed betrayal. He looked at the screen, a paused video. Taehyung bound, defenseless. The exact frame before the camera cut out. Beside it, another tab, footage from the hospital, the fake Seo-jin, her handlers, all tied to one account. Min Corporation. He opened another file, a list of contacts, under a folder labeled Project Silence. 7 names. Each one of the BTS members. Each one marked with a different code. And beside Jungkook's name. Status compromised, emotionally unstable, leverage Seo-jin/child. Recommended action, isolate, force narrative collapse, break internally. Chairman Lee closed the files and smirked. Let the world watch them eat each other alive. The next morning, inside a safe house nestled in the outskirts of Seoul's mountains, Jungkook stood on the balcony, phone in hand. His fingers hovered over a number he hadn't called in over a year. His mother. He wanted to tell her everything, about Seo-jin, about the baby, about what had happened. But instead, he just pressed the lock button and slipped the phone back into his pocket. Taehyung stepped out behind him. Still thinking of running. Jungkook didn't look at him, thinking of who I have left if this all goes to hell. You have heard. For now. Taehyung leaned on the railing beside him. You think she'll leave? I think she's scared of being used again, of being the reason we're ruined. Taehyung paused, then said, we're already ruined, but maybe that's the point. Maybe now we get to rebuild as who we actually are. Jungkook looked at him for the first time in what felt like days. You still love her? Taehyung hesitated. Yeah, I do. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then help me keep her alive, not for me, not for you, for the kid who never asked to be born into this mess. I'm with you, Taehyung said, whatever happens. Inside, Seo-jin sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the envelope Namjoon had just handed her. Inside it were the real medical records. Her blood work. And a single line of red text printed at the bottom. Fetus status, high genetic match to BTS gene sequencing project. She stared at it for a long time. Then whispered to herself. What did they do to us? The truth wasn't just dangerous. It was genetic. And it had only just begun to unravel. Seo-jin stared at the red-inked line on the medical file like it had just torn open the fabric of her reality. High genetic match to BTS gene sequencing project. The words were clinical, devoid of emotion, but their implications were monstrous. Her fingers trembled against the paper. Namjoon stood silently at the doorway, his face a carefully controlled mask, but the tension in his jaw betrayed the truth he already knew. You're not surprised, Seo-jin said, not looking at him. Namjoon didn't deny it. No. Since when? A month ago, he said quietly. We intercepted files from a locked HYBE archive, not fan content, not performance analytics, DNA databases, neuromapping studies, hormonal control trials, all tied to something called Project Seraphim. Seo-jin laughed bitterly. Seraphim, of course they'd name their science experiment after angels. Jungkook walked into the room then, catching only the tail end of that sentence. He looked between the two of them, then at the paper in Seo-jin's lap. What is it? Seo-jin handed it to him with a blank expression. She didn't want to say the words again. She couldn't. Jungkook's eyes moved down the page, then they stopped, his breath hitched. No, he muttered, no, this can't, this isn't. Namjoon took a careful step closer. The sequencing wasn't accidental, they used blood samples taken during early contracts. Do you remember the full-body medical exams during trainee years, routine evaluations? That's when it started. Jungkook's voice cracked, you're saying they cloned us. No, Namjoon said, worse, they designed traits perfected versions of the BTS genome. Talent, discipline, emotional triggers, all mapped and studied, but they didn't create you. Then what the hell did they do to her? Jungkook snapped, motioning to Seo-jin. What did they do to our child? Namjoon held up a flash drive. We don't know yet, but this holds part of the data. Seo-jin stood suddenly, swaying slightly. If I was part of this, if the baby is part of this, then none of this was real, was it? Jungkook stepped toward her desperate. No, don't go there. You think I was chosen because of who I am, or was I chosen because of what I carry? Stop. Was I just a womb to them, Jungkook? Stop, his voice broke. She stepped back, her face was unreadable now. I need to be alone, she said. No, please, but before he could reach her, she had already left the room. Jungkook stood in the silence she left behind, shoulders collapsing under the weight. Namjoon didn't say anything, he knew nothing he said could fix what had just fractured. She's scared, he finally offered. She should be, Jungkook whispered, because so am I. Meanwhile, Taehyung sat on the rooftop of the safe house, the wind biting against his skin, his ribs still aching from the bruises left by Black Fox's guards. He was staring out into the trees, the mountains beyond them, pretending for a moment that the world hadn't changed overnight. Yoongi found him there, quietly lighting a cigarette before sitting down next to him. I thought you quit, Taehyung said. I did until everything caught fire. They sat in silence. She doesn't love me, Taehyung said after a long pause. Yoongi didn't respond, he waited. I mean, she loves me, but not the way I wanted, not the way I used to think she did. I see it now, it's in the way she looks at him. Even when she's scared, even when she's broken, she reaches for him. Yoongi exhaled smoke into the cold air. It doesn't mean you're nothing to her. I know, Taehyung murmured, but it hurts anyway. Yoongi glanced sideways. You're still going to fight for them, aren't you? Of course I am. Even if it means losing her for good. Taehyung didn't flinch. She's not mine to keep, she never was. Yoongi nodded. That's what makes you dangerous, T. Taehyung frowned. What do you mean? Yoongi looked at him seriously now. Because you've got nothing left to lose. Downstairs, Seo-jin had found her way to the back of the safe house, where a cracked bathroom mirror reflected the haunted stranger she'd become. Her eyes were sunken, her lips pale, the bruises on her throat faded but still there. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small locket she hadn't shown anyone yet. Inside was a photo, a baby's ultrasound, and folded beneath it a hospital tag. One word stood out. Specimen 27A. Not mother, not patient. Specimen. She ran her thumb over it until her hands shook too badly to hold it. Then the door creaked open. It was Taehyung. He didn't speak, just watched her through the reflection in the mirror. She looked up, her voice distant. Did you know about this? No. Not until the file. But you suspected. Taehyung hesitated. I suspected a lot of things I didn't want to believe. She turned to him now, eyes glassy. Do you think this baby was engineered? I think it's yours, he said, and that's the only part that matters to me. She almost cried at that, almost, but the tears wouldn't come. I want it out of me, she said suddenly. I want them out of me, every needle, every fingerprint, every plan they made. Taehyung crossed the room slowly, stopped just in front of her. You're not a lab experiment, Seo-jin. You're the only person who told Jungkook to stop being an idol and start being a man. You made him real again. She looked down, and what if I'm the one who ruins him? You can't ruin something that was already falling apart. You held him together, and me too. She reached for his hand, he didn't hesitate. They stood there like that, not lovers, not strangers, just two people broken in the same direction. Back in Seoul, inside a luxury skyscraper office, Chairman Lee stood in front of a glass wall as rain battered the city skyline. He wasn't alone. A young woman in a white lab coat stood behind him, tapping on a tablet. Her ID badge read, Dr. Min So-hee, Director of Genetic Operations. The leak has begun, she said. The BTS Genome Project is trending on encrypted fan forums. They've already started connecting the dots. And how are they reacting? Some are shocked, others think it's a viral campaign. He smirked. Good, confusion buys us time. She hesitated. Sir, should we initiate phase II? He turned to her slowly, eyes like frozen steel. No, not until they find the boy. Boy, she echoed. He walked to a drawer, pulled out a hidden file. Inside was a photo of Seo-jin's fetus. And underneath it, a second ultrasound. Earlier. Unlabeled. But different. Twins, he said. One was removed during the 3rd month. The mother was never told. Dr. Min's face paled. What did you do with the second embryo? Lee Do-hyun smiled. We raised him. Where is he now? He looked out the window. Exactly where we need him to be. In the shadows of fandom. In the storm of betrayal. Waiting to be activated. The perfect weapon. Made from their own blood. Ready to tear them apart. A low fog crept along the forest floor outside the safe house. It curled like breath around the base of the trees, slow and silent, as though the earth itself were holding its breath. Inside, the tension was palpable, thick as the mist, cold as steel. Every window had been blacked out, every phone set to emergency encryption. They were ghosts now, even the air tasted like secrets. Jungkook hadn't slept. He sat in front of the fireplace, its glow casting long shadows across his sharp features. He held a photo of Seo-jin's ultrasound between his fingers, the edges bent from the pressure of his grip. The image no longer felt like a miracle, it felt like a warning. Namjoon entered quietly, holding a laptop. He didn't sit. We need to talk, he said. Jungkook didn't respond. His eyes remained fixed on the flickering flames. Namjoon exhaled and dropped the laptop on the table beside him, screen already awake. Dr. Min So-hee, geneticist, XHYBE research lead, disappeared after a funding scandal tied to off-books biotech trials. Guess where she works now? Jungkook finally looked up. Chairman Lee. Namjoon nodded grimly. We cross-checked her credentials. She was overseeing a project titled Inheritance Protocol. All this, he tapped the photo, was part of it. You, Seo-jin, the child, and the twin. Jungkook blinked. The what? Namjoon hesitated, then pulled up the second ultrasound image. She was carrying twins. Jungkook stood so fast the chair toppled. No, that's not possible, she never said. She didn't know. Where's the other one? Jungkook demanded, voice cracking. Where the fuck is my other child? Namjoon swallowed. They extracted the embryo during her 3rd month. She was told it was just a complication. She was sedated during the procedure, never questioned it. And they just took. Jungkook's hands curled into fists, trembling with rage. They took my child. They didn't just take him, Namjoon said. They raised him. The silence between them splintered like glass. Raised him, Jungkook repeated. As what? A mirror, Namjoon said. Or a weapon, depends on how far you want to believe this goes. Jungkook felt the weight of the truth slam into his chest like a brick wall. All this time he thought he was fighting to protect his family. Now he realized someone had already stolen half of it. From upstairs, Seo-jin's scream cut through the air. Jungkook sprinted up the stairs 2 at a time. Namjoon followed, gun already drawn. They burst into the room. Seo-jin sat upright on the bed, soaked in sweat, clutching her stomach, eyes wide with panic. He's here, she gasped. I felt it, he's here. Jungkook rushed to her side, kneeling. Who's here? She looked at him, pupils dilated, heart racing beneath her ribs. The other one, the other baby, I saw him in my head, in a corridor, and he looked like you. Jungkook's blood ran cold. That's not possible. Namjoon lowered his weapon slowly. Unless there's a neurological connection, a psychic bond, if the embryos were genetically manipulated, it's not unthinkable. They might be linked, Seo-jin whispered. Namjoon nodded. Jungkook stared at her. What did he say? Seo-jin's lip trembled. He didn't speak, but he was watching me like he knew me, and there was something behind him, a lab, machines, screens. Namjoon turned to Jungkook. We need to find him before they activate him. Jungkook's voice was hoarse. Activate, he's not a weapon. Maybe not now, but he was bred to be one, trained since birth. You don't know what kind of conditioning they've put him through. Taehyung stepped into the room, still weak but alert. Then what happens if he sees Jungkook, his face, his DNA? Namjoon didn't answer. Seojin turned her face into Jungkook's chest. What if he doesn't recognize us as parents? Jungkook closed his eyes. Then I'll remind him. Somewhere in Seoul, under a decoy orphanage disguised as a government-funded youth development center, the boy sat in a white room. He was 17. Barefoot. Sharp-boned and hauntingly beautiful. He looked like Jungkook at 17 but colder, eyes too still, movements too precise. He was surrounded by monitors, footage of BTS, concerts, interviews, training footage, even candid behind-the-scenes clips never meant for public eyes. A voice came through the speaker in the wall, calm, measured. Do you know who that is? It asked. The boy tilted his head. Yes. What's his name? Jeon Jungkook. And what is he to you? The boy paused, then blinked slowly. The failed prototype. Very good, the voice said. Another screen came to life. A live feed. Seojin crying, holding her belly. Do you recognize the woman? Yes. Who is she? Carrier biological tether, emotional hazard. And what do we do with emotional hazards? Sever them. Excellent. The voice clicked off. The boy turned back to the monitor of Jungkook's face. And he smiled. Back in the safe house, Yoongi had locked himself in a side room with a wall of servers. He was tracing server pings, following digital breadcrumbs through the dark web like a hunter in a labyrinth. He didn't look up when Taehyung entered. You look like hell, Taehyung said. Yoongi smirked. So do you, let's call it even. What are you working on? Breaking the livestream firewall. Whoever built it is good, military grade, probably ex-Intel. Taehyung leaned against the doorframe. And when you find it? Yoongi's eyes glittered. I give them a virus, one they can't delete. Even if that means going public. Yoongi looked up. You're still worried about the fans. I'm worried about what comes after. Yoongi stood, walking over to him. There is no after if we lose this. There's only ashes, so either we burn their lies or they burn our lives. Taehyung nodded. Then let's light the match. That night, Seojin stood on the balcony, staring out at the stars. Jungkook joined her, a blanket draped over her shoulders. He didn't speak, he just stood beside her. I can feel him, she whispered. The other one, it's like he's tethered to me. Jungkook looked down. What if he hates us? He doesn't know us, she said. He only knows what they told him, what they showed him. Then we find him, and we show him who he really is. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Promise me something, she said. If we don't make it, if something happens to me, you'll find him, you'll bring him home. Jungkook turned to face her fully. I'm not losing you, he said. Not again, not ever. But if you do.